Hello everybody, this is Mango Oblivion Plays, and today I'm going to go through the steps and rules of playing the Pokemon trading card game. This is not going to be an exhaustive list of rules and regulations, but it's just a way to explain the basics of the game and make sure you understand how to play. Let's begin. Let's begin. First of all, let's just start over with some basic rules and objectives. Players are going to make a 60 card deck, which is an important number here. You need to have 60 cards exactly. Players are going to take turns drawing cards, playing Pokemon, other cards, and attacking. And you win a game by either taking all 6 of your prizes, if your opponent runs out of Pokemon, or if your opponent runs out of cards in their deck. The play area for a Pokemon card game is pretty simple as far as a collectible trading card game goes. In the top center, you'll see this area here, which is called the active Pokemon spot. This is where your Pokemon will be facing down your opponent's Pokemon. So this is the Pokemon that is actively battling at the time. Back here, you have 5 bench spots. These spots are for your Pokemon that are waiting their turn. So they're not battling right now. They're waiting in their Pokeballs, getting ready to do battle for you. You have a deck spot and a discard pile. The deck is where you keep your cards that you haven't drawn yet, and your discard pile is where you put cards that you've used. On the left, you have 6 prize cards. These are the things that determine if you are being successful in the game. When you knock out an opponent's Pokemon, you get to take a prize card, which signifies that you won and they had to change their Pokemon. If you take all 6 of these cards, you win the game. Finally, this slot over here is for what's called a stadium card. Some cards in the Pokemon card game have effects that affect both you and your opponent. Those are called stadium cards. Both you and your opponent can play a stadium card, and when someone plays a stadium card, the old stadium goes into the original player's discard pile, and they affect both you and your opponent. Let's go over some different types of cards in the game. The first, of course, are Pokemon. Pokemon cards are distinctive from the other cards because of several different things. First of all, Pokemon cards are going to have more information on them than most of the other cards in the game. And 2, they have a very distinctive color. Pokemon cards are going to have the color of their typing as their background. And like I said, have more information on them. So let's begin with this Pokemon over here. This Pokemon is a basic Pokemon. That means that you can play it right away onto the field. Its name is right next to its basic symbol. This one is Litten. Litten is a fire type. You can tell that by this up here in the corner. It has 70 hit points. That's how many times it can get hurt before it's knocked out. Litten has 2 attacks. The first one is Bite, and the second one is Flare. Bite does 10 damage, and you can use Bite if it has an energy card attached to it that is of the fire type. Flare does 20 damage, and you can use it if you have 1 fire type energy and 1 what they call colorless energy. Whenever you see a white symbol like this, that means it could be any type of energy. It could be another fire energy, it could be a water energy, it could be any type of energy you want. You just have to have that second energy. Finally, on the bottom, we have what's called Weakness, Resistance, and Retreat. Weakness, like in most Pokemon games, deals with the idea that there are different types of Pokemon, and some of them are better against others. In this instance, Litten, being a fire type, is weak to water. That means if your opponent is using a water type card, like Primarina over here, all of Primarina's attacks do double damage to Litten, because Litten is weak. So, if we walked over here and we saw Primarina, its first attack does 30 damage. Well, if Primarina did this attack against Litten, it would do 60 damage instead of 30 because of weakness. Some Pokemon have a resistance. That means that type is not very good against it. Resistance lowers the amount of damage taken by that card, usually by 20 points. So in this instance, let's say Litten was using its Flare attack against the Pokemon with resistance to fire. Instead of taking 20 damage, that Pokemon would take 0 damage because it resists fire damage. Finally, we have the retreat cost. Retreat is the ability to leave the active spot and go back to the bench and let another Pokemon take over. To retreat, you have to discard the amount of energy listed on the card. Litten has a retreat cost of 1, so if you wanted to retreat and go back to the bench, you would have to discard one of the energies you've attached to Litten so that you can go back to the bench. As you can see over here, Ivysaur has a retreat cost of 3. So you need to discard 3 energies to get Ivysaur out of the active spot. The most a retreat cost can be is 4. The lowest it can be is 0. Let's move on over to Ivysaur here. As you can notice, Ivysaur's card looks a little bit different, and that's because Ivysaur is a Stage 1 card. Stage 1 cards evolve from basic cards, and the Pokemon they evolve from is pictured right below the Stage 1 symbol. It also says in words, in writing, what it evolves from. So to play Ivysaur, you have to have a Bulbasaur on your bench or in the active spot, and you play Ivysaur on top of that card. Any cards that were attached to Bulbasaur, like energy or trainer cards, stay with Ivysaur. So if Ivysaur had 2 energy attached, or Bulbasaur had 2 energy attached to it, and you evolve it to Ivysaur, it still has 2 energy attached, and it can use its Leech Seed attack. An important thing to remember too is any damage counters that Bulbasaur has also go to Ivysaur. So if Bulbasaur got hurt in battle and had taken 20 damage, then this Ivysaur has still taken 20 damage. Finally on the right, Primarina here is a Stage 2 card. Stage 2 cards evolve from Stage 1 cards, and the Pokemon that it evolves from is listed on the card. Stage 2 is the highest stage that you can have in Pokemon cards. So, that is the final evolutionary card. A Stage 2 card is played on top of the Stage 1 card that you're evolving it from. In Pokemon cards, there are special Pokemon that have what are called rule boxes. The rule box is on the bottom of the card, and it'll tell you what kind of rule it has. This card, for instance, is a Pokemon EX, and its rule says that if a Pokemon EX is knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prizes instead of 1. There are several different other types of rules that a Pokemon card can have, but for right now, just think of it this way. Any card that has a rule box usually is worth more than 1 prize. So remember, if you're trying to take 6 prizes, knocking out a Pokemon EX is going to be more valuable for you because you get to take 2 of those 6 prizes instead of 1. And that's because this Pokemon is really difficult to knock out. Pokemon like Pokemon EX are usually Stage 2 cards, but they can be other kinds. And they have lots of the similar information that other Pokemon cards have. They have hit points, they have a type. Some of them even have what is called an ability. Other Pokemon have abilities as well, but I'm just going to explain it here. An ability is something that you can use during your turn, or when you do an action to help you out. Let's read Charizard EX's ability. Infernal Rain. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn. Okay, so during your turn, you have a Charmeleon on your field, and you play a Charizard EX onto it. You can search your deck for up to 3 basic fire energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. So this ability activates when you evolve a Pokemon, this Pokemon from Charmeleon, and you get to search your deck for some energy cards. Pretty cool. It also has an attack, which requires 2 fire energies, and it does 180 damage, plus a little bit more if your opponent has taken prize points. The latest iteration of Pokemon cards focuses on Pokemon EX. In past games, there have been other types of cards with rule boxes, and in the future, there will be other types of cards with rule boxes. The one thing that they all have in common, though, is that they are usually worth more than one prize. Some other cards we want to know are the trainer cards. The first type of trainer card is an item card. Item cards are great because you can play as many of them during your turn as you like, and they can be very helpful for you while you're playing the game. For example, let's take a look at Pokeball here. Pokeball, if you read it, says, you flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for a Pokemon. Reveal it and put it into your hand, and you can shuffle your deck. So, if your hand is missing a Pokemon you need, maybe you want to evolve it or something like that, you can play Pokeball, and it'll let you have an opportunity to search for a Pokemon you need. You can see that's going to be a very helpful thing to have. The ability to search for a Pokemon, the ability to search for some energies. Maybe it's something that'll help you find the cards you need. That's generally what items do. They allow you to search your deck for things you're missing. Or sometimes they can be used to heal. So sometimes those item cards can heal your Pokemon. Very helpful. The next type of Pokemon trainer card is called a tool card. A Pokemon tool is a card that you can attach to your Pokemon, and that effect stays with that Pokemon until it's knocked out. This card is experience share. So, if you attach it to a Pokemon, when your active Pokemon's knocked out by your opponent's Pokemon, you get to move one of its energy to the Pokemon that has this card. So it's a really great way to keep your energy on your field and not your discard pile. Tools are great because you can utilize them the whole length of your Pokemon's time on the field. Remember, you can only attach one Pokemon tool to a Pokemon at a time. The next type of trainer card is called a Stadium. I mentioned these briefly earlier in the video. Stadium cards affect both you and your opponent, and they give some sort of effect to the whole field. So in this instance, Beach Court makes your retreat cost of any basic Pokemon lower. So that can be really helpful. And if you have a Pokemon that's out in your active spot, you don't want it there anymore, it's going to be easier to get that back on the bench and get the Pokemon you want out in your active spot. Remember, if a trainer or if your opponent plays a Stadium card, your Stadium card goes into your discard pile. So there can only be one Stadium card at a time. The final type of a trainer card is called a supporter card. Supporter cards are different than other trainer cards because you can only play one supporter card during your turn. This is because supporter cards have effects that are much more powerful than regular trainer cards. They can do some really awesome and interesting things, and so they are limited in their use. You can have tons of supporter cards in your deck, but you can only use them once per turn. Finally, there are energy cards. The basic type of energy cards look like this. They have the symbol of the energy type they provide, and they usually have a picture of that energy symbol on them. Each basic energy counts for one energy. You need to have these kinds of energies to use attacks. So if you want to attack your opponent, that Pokemon needs to have the energy required to do its attacks. There are different types of energy cards that correspond with the types of Pokemon. Fire, grass, water, electric, psychic, dark, fighting, and then there used to be fairy, but we don't use fairy anymore. They got rid of that one. Those are the different energy types. Oh, and steel. That's the last one. They have steel type too. My bad. I always forget that one. There are also something called special energy cards. These energy cards have special effects and might provide different types of energy or special bonuses. This special energy is called luminous energy, and it provides any type of energy you need onto a Pokemon. There are certain rules for these, though. For instance, in this card, if you have more than one special energy attached to the Pokemon, they don't count as any energy type anymore. They just count as a colorless energy. So special energy cards can be very useful because they can provide lots of different effects. For instance, they can make they could get rid of your weakness, or they can make you take less damage, or like this one, they can give you multiple different types of energy. So let's go over how to set up a game of Pokemon cards. First things first, each player needs to shuffle their 60 card deck. After that, players will draw 7 cards for your hand. You need to check to make sure you have at least one basic Pokemon. If you don't, you need to reshuffle and try again. As a bonus to your opponent, because you didn't draw a basic Pokemon card, they get to draw 1 extra card. So, for instance, if I was playing my friend John, and I didn't draw a basic Pokemon card in my first time drawing 7 cards, I'd shuffle and try again, and if I got a basic Pokemon, John would get to start the game with 8 cards, while I only got to start with 7. Once both players have drawn a hand, draw 6 more cards from your deck and place them face down in the prize zone. Remember, taking all 6 of these prizes is how you win the game. Finally, to determine who goes first, you need to flip a coin or roll a die and determine who will be the first person to play. Let's see what a turn looks like in the Pokemon trading card game. On a player's turn, there's a lot of different things that you can do, but it's best to follow along in this order. The first thing you can do on your turn is draw 1 card from your deck. So every turn, like clockwork, when it becomes your turn, you get to draw 1 card. Next, you can play any Pokemon from your hand to your bench. So let's say I drew a Pikachu card. I could play that Pikachu card on my bench if I have space open. You can also evolve a Pokemon the turn after their base form is played. So, for instance, if I play a Pikachu on turn 1, on the second turn, I could evolve that Pikachu into Raichu. You can also play as many trainer cards as you like, as well as 1 supporter card. Remember, supporter cards are limited because they are more powerful than regular trainer cards. You may also activate the abilities of your Pokemon. So if your Pokemon has an ability, and the requirements to activate it are there, you can activate its ability and use it. You may also play 1 energy card to your Pokemon for free every turn. Finally, at the end, you can choose to declare an attack or pass your turn. If you do attack on your turn, that ends your turn immediately. So, make sure you do all the other steps before you attack. Here are some quick reminders. You can only play 1 supporter card per turn. You need to wait a turn to evolve one of your Pokemon. And on the very first turn, if you go first, you cannot play an energy or a supporter that turn. Be respectful, be polite. It's just a game. We're all here to have fun. Now, let's take a look at a sample turn of Pokemon Trading Card Game. After that, the video will end. If you have any questions, leave a comment on the video, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thanks for watching.
All right, here's a sample of a Pokemon card turn. As you can see, we've just got set up. I've got my 6 prizes. I've got my deck. This is my hand, and I've got my starting Pokemon out in front. So when I start a turn, I'm always going to draw 1 card from my deck, put it in my hand. Then I can go through the steps of things I can do. The first thing I can do is play Pokemon from my hand that are basics. Pawmi here is a basic card, so I can play it to my bench. And I have another Pawmi, so I'm going to take that card out. Oh. And I'm going to play that. Oh, goodbye cards. I'll move those out of the way. So now those are on my bench, which means they're in reserve. So if my active Pokemon gets knocked out, this one up here, I can choose to put my other Pawmis into the active spot after that. This is also the instance where I could evolve a Pokemon. So the turn after I play my Pawmi, I could evolve it into the next Pokemon. I also in my hand have several different trainer cards and an energy. So I can choose to use these cards on my turn. For instance, I have this Pokemon item card called Earthen Vessel, so I could play that card and activate its effect. Or I could play a supporter card, like Professor's Research. Remember, you can only play one supporter per turn. Finally, one of the most important things in the game is to attach energy. So every turn, you can attach one energy card for free. There are other instances where you can attach more energy cards by playing trainers, but you can always attach one for free. So I'm going to attach that to my buddy Pawmi. By doing that, I can use its static shock attack on my turn and do damage to my opponent. So, because I have one energy card, and my Pokemon's attack costs 1 energy, I can use my attack and does 20 damage. And then once you attack, your turn ends. So make sure anything you want to do before that, you do before you attack. Finally, let's say I knocked out one of my opponent's Pokemon. If I do that, I can go over here to my prize cards, and I get to take one. And it looks here, I got another trainer card. So I can put that in my hand. That is a sample turn of Pokemon cards.